Welcome into the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson. Dr. David James?
I'm definitely not a doctor.
How much schooling did you get?
I got a BA.
Okay. BA David James and BA Ben Anderson.
Yeah, you want to know about the GPA?
No.
Like the last year and a half, I'm like,
what are the great lies?
I absolutely know what I want to do. I'm starting to get paid. I was starting to do part-time, work and all that. I knew what I wanted to do. I'm like, I'm not going to grad school. What does my GPA matter? Don't let it get embarrassing. But
you should lie about your GPA on every resume you ever have if they ask for it, because who would ever know?
I don't put it on there. And
yeah,
who
would
I don't
you?
lie
Why
on
would you?
resumes because people lost a Notre Dame football job over
I'm
that.
not working in tech. Maybe if I worked in some crazy job, and even they're probably lying.
All
right, this is our first Thursday episode. Again, it will be a little bit different than Mondays, but what is not going to be different?
Why will it be different?
We're not doing a mailbag.
Oh, okay.
Mailbags for Thursdays. But you know what we are going to do? It's going to be the Ben mailbag. It's going to be what I've been pondering. It's going to be what I've been thinking, and I want to get David James's view on it because you have a different view of the Utah Jazz than I do.
And that would be?
You've been covering them. When did you come to Utah?
92.
So you've been covering them since 1992. Mm-hmm. I was 6 years old, so I didn't quite have the same experience that you did, though obviously growing up in Utah and being a basketball fan, the Jazz were the gateway drug to everything else that turned me into a true basketball junkie. But there's some familiarity there, so I'll be curious to talk to you, not about the history of the Utah Jazz. Nobody cares about that, but context. And
well, I think they do care about it in the sense that they want to match it.
They want to match it.
They want to match it.
So I'm looking for pattern recognition, which is our job.
Yes.
You look for the pattern, and is the pattern continuing, or is the pattern being disrupted?
Right.
And both are worth talking about.
Yes.
So let's start there.
Okay.
The pattern for the Utah Jazz, as always, find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops, at David DJ James, or read us at KSLSports.com. The pattern for the Utah Jazz for the last 3 years, and I'm speaking in broad terms because we know the beginning of the Lowry Markkanen era started with a 12-3 record. But for the most part, it's been about losing games as much as possible. I wrote a story last night saying the Jazz are 4-7. They're not losing every game. A lot of Jazz fans right now have a bad feeling in their stomach after every win. Not after losses, after wins. Jazz fans have now been conditioned to not feel good about that.
I understand that.
What are your thoughts on that at 4-7? Is that a good feeling to have? Is that justified? Have fans been
Well, the cold hard truth is through 11 games they're winning too much.
You think so?
I do. I think they're winning at a rate that will cost them their draft pick. However,
they are on pace to win 29 games right now.
That will cost them their draft pick.
It probably will.
I do think that at the start of this season, absolutely 10% of the league was going to tank. Subsequently,
which is 3 teams, and you're right. That sounds
Washington,
like a big number. It's 3 teams.
Certainly the Nets and the Jazz. I think everybody thought, well, those 3 teams are already looking at the draft. Subsequently, the Pacers have been added to that pool for sure. Oddly, the New Orleans Pelicans are added to that based on record, but not based on motivation because they don't actually have their pick because Atlanta has it because they oddly traded it for...
Because Joe Dumars is an idiot.
Derek Queen.
Yeah.
Although Queen just had his best game as a pro Wednesday night, it's like Joe Dumars has to be thinking, I need 50 more of those.
Yeah, I worry Derek Queen's best game may not be better than Cam Boozer's worst game is the problem.
I think the whole league is doing a little bit of the old head scratching thing. Like, what is he doing? That's not a bad move. That's a spectacularly horrific move. Yeah, people aren't debating whether that was a good idea or not. It was almost universal. Well, he shouldn't have done that.
No, that's your franchise might move type of trade.
Well, you're in Nico Luka. Territory there.
Yeah.
There was a thing, a lot of people who follow us probably still follow Tony Jones. I was going to say the late, great Tony Jones, but he didn't die. He just moved to Philly. Yeah. The late, great Tony Jones.
Leave the joke
and
out.
He was, and I don't even remember what the deal was. Actually, I think the original tweet had been deleted, and I never found out what it was. But he said, there's no point. And so I interjected myself in it for no other reason than I was bored between periods at a Mammoth game. And the Zamboni was going around. Wasn't that fascinating, right? So I said, well, you got to call. He said, you don't even call. Like, well, you got to call in case someone has a Luka Nico moment.
Yeah,
you always call.
Yeah.
I was listening to a national show driving down here today, and they were talking about how the Lakers have fielded 20 calls on Reeves. And I'm like, why not 29?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're at gym. What else you got to do?
Yeah,
Pick
that's
up
your
the phone
job.
and call them, right?
That is your job.
Yeah.
So yes, and then you hope you find the pigeon. When you find the pigeon, you take advantage, and it sets your franchise way ahead, and it sets them way back. And yes, the Lakers are way ahead because they have Luka, and the Mavericks are way behind.
You might get a steal, and I flippantly said, what else you got to do? They've got 1,000 things to do. But one thing is to keep talking because a deal might emerge that you hadn't originally thought of.
So to bring this back to the Utah Jazz.
So they are winning too much.
This is what the Thunder thought. They thought maybe the Jazz were the pigeon. They were giving up an unprotected first-round pick or top 8 protected first-round pick with a lack of foresight. By 2026, might have a good draft, and maybe the Jazz deliver us a lottery pick. And the Jazz, I do think, because you know Austin Ainge very well. I know him a little bit. I've only met him recently, but you've known him dating back to his days playing at BYU. He's a smart person.
Yeah.
Austin Ainge is
He didn't make this trade.
He didn't, but also he knows his future, not directly, but somewhat, not exclusively.
Not immediately.
But will hinge on whether or not the Jazz continue to add good players to their roster, and the easiest way to do it is through the draft. Mm-hmm. And he's going to value his first draft running the team, second draft running the team, having a pick in a good draft to launch his tenure as the Jazz's president of basketball ops.
Well, they are winning too much right now. It's only 11 games. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things that can happen. One, injuries could happen. The team could be gutted. They've already had an injury that I think is going to cost them a lot of wins that I did think at the start of the year, they might get to that 29-30. I know people who thought they could win more than that, and that's getting a little optimistic. I also know people who thought they were going to be at 20 wins. Obviously, we know what Vegas thinks. Yeah. That's more the neighborhood Vegas was thinking. But once we were talking last week, there's 2 guys who have skill sets that are unique to this roster. Nobody can score like Markkanen. Mm-hmm. If he gets hurt or they sit him, they lose scoring punch they cannot replace.
They don't have a 30-point per game
and no
guy.
one can defend the rim the way Kessler can.
Yeah.
So if he gets hurt, which he now has gotten hurt, mm-hmm. they're gonna get beat. They're gonna give up a lot more layups and dunks. Teams are gonna attack the rim. They're gonna be forced to collapse as a team, and they are gonna give up open perimeter shots. There's a lot of nights where that's gonna happen. Also, here's the other thing: their schedule was clearly front loaded with wins. Clearly, the Jazz schedule.
Yeah.
Clearly. So while this is a pace that, if they sustain, the schedule is going to get tougher. There is really no hint that they're going to sustain this against better teams. Now, I think the worry is I've seen speculation that by the time we get to the end of the year, there'll be 8 or 10 teams dumping games. We're at 4 for sure now. We can see 4 for sure, and maybe New Orleans just simply isn't capable of anything other than getting punched in the face 3 or 4 times a week. So maybe there's 5. And here's where I think the danger lies for the Jazz. I think that although we've always thought, the playoffs are a much higher level of play than the regular season, even inside the regular seasons, there are moments where teams coast in games. There are specific games where teams are now coasting, and there are stretches of the season where teams coasting. If I had a young team, much as Will Hardy does, and I don't know because I don't get to talk to Will one-on-one. You do, I think, maybe occasionally, which is why
we have lunch every week.
You're valuable. Yeah, right.
That's not true.
But just going off what he says in his 5 o'clock availabilities and in his post-game availabilities, the way I hear him talk about this team is the way I think I would talk about it if I were in his shoes. And I think he is super careful the way he criticizes the team in the post-game. But the criticism is there if you listen closely. And I know you do. But he's careful not to call out individuals because that never works out well for
really
NBA coaches. It A, ends their career, and B, tends to break players who maybe aren't as mentally tough as you'd like to think. Yeah, right. Yeah. In Jazz history, he's trying to avoid a mistake Jerry Sloan said he made with Deshaun Stevenson.
Okay.
Left him on Vince Carter, gave him 47 points, thought, hey, just the more reps you get, you'll figure it out. Jerry didn't hold him against him. Jerry knew the score, knew it, but Deshaun took it really hard. And Jerry's like, boy, it took 2 months to get him back from that. Yeah, right. I made a mistake there, So I think he's trying to avoid those moments, but he's clearly calling the team out as a group. And I think, I know we're going to get Dace Bailey in the starting lineup. When Will Hardy says, well, we're having problems with straight line drives, he says it in this technical nature, like he's no, he's every 6th grade coach in the world. Stay between your man and the basket. Yeah. This is so bleep and basic. Why do I have to say it? and there's freshmen and sophomore and JV coaches, boys and girls, high schools all over the state who are like, you can't, you got to stay in front of your player. You got to.
Yeah.
You got to defend your butt between them and the hoop.
Yeah.
And that's what he's saying, but he's trying to say in this. So they have major flaws. Like if you can't stand in front of your guy and you don't have Kessler at the rim, they're gonna go on losing streaks here.
Let's look at a couple of numbers really quick, not to be too boring with numbers, but
hit me.
The Jazz do have had, I should say, the easiest strength of schedule in the NBA so far.
I did not know that number. I completely believe it.
And that's because they have played teams with bad winning percentages.
A good sign or a bad sign, depending on whether you want them to tank games, because I know there are people saying, well, we can tank and hold on to the pick, but we're going to still end up drafting 9th and not get a game changer, and what are we doing here? I get that argument, right? If you want them to lose games and preserve that pick and maybe land in the top 3 if they get lucky, the games that I would point to are the losses to Phoenix and Charlotte. Those are not good basketball teams. They may have good records for a while. They may simply be the bottom of the middle and get there by beating consistently bad teams. But there's nothing special about Charlotte and Phoenix. And the fact they lost those games suggests that they really can't sustain this.
The Jazz have played 3 teams so far this season with records above 500. Do you think you could name them? I couldn't tell you who they were because I was surprised because I'm also not tracking standings this early.
Right. Well, I mean, like Atlanta is 500. Now they're game 12, so they don't count in this.
They don't count this.
But I wouldn't have think of Atlanta as that, but they are 7-5. I did happen to look. So did they play Houston already?
They've not played Houston.
Now, who did they play?
Detroit?
Oh, yes. Detroit's off
very
to a
good.
great start.
Minnesota?
Is Detroit still 1 in the East?
They are number 1 in the East.
Yeah.
They're 10-2.
Yeah.
And the Jazz gave them a good fight.
And they played Minnesota twice.
Played Minnesota twice. And they played Phoenix. And Phoenix is 7-5. So if you're looking at, do the Jazz have a quote unquote
so that's
good
5
win
games
this season?
Against 3 clubs, that's 5 games.
It is.
Yeah.
So those are some tougher teams. Mm-hmm. The rest of their teams have been some of the worst, including the Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Clippers and some of these teams who have not gotten off the mat yet.
The Clippers, there's a team that may not get off the mat.
And may not. Charlotte.
They're one of those, how do we go from 4 teams dumping games to 8 or 10? Keep your eye on the Clippers. That's a team that might do it.
Charlotte's right there with the Jazz at 4-7. The Jazz may regret beating Phoenix and the Clippers early in the season. Yeah. Because what do we know? And you caught the Suns without Jalen Green, and maybe Jalen Green's out all year because he's got a hamstring thing. Young teams are good early, and contrary to what you would think, with experience they're going to get better. Young teams get worse throughout the year because they treat the season like a sprint, and Ace Bailey's going to lose his legs at game 22.
Totally believe that.
And he's going to fall apart.
I will co-sign that all night long. Good point.
And so will Taylor Hendricks, and so will Kyle Filipowski. It just takes you a few years to understand the marathon of it all. Mm-hmm. I mean, Keontae George last year did not have his legs by the end of the season. It's why they fall apart. And veteran teams get better. So when you beat a couple of veteran teams early in the season, those might actually be losses that do hurt you in the standings. But you're young. You're going to come out of the gate with your hair on fire and play great. And it's why you generally win your home opener, and the Jazz did this well. So that's the first number I want to look at is the Jazz have had the easiest schedule so far in the NBA and have the toughest remaining. Now, it balances out because everyone plays 82 games, but that if you're a Jazz fan who's worried about winning too many games,
there's some L's
the schedule has been in your favor.
Yeah.
Let's look at numbers with Walker Kessler and without Walker Kessler quickly. Is that all right?
Sure.
Just to get a quick update. First, and I'm going 4 games this season because he got hurt against Phoenix and it didn't really work out. First 4 games of the season, the Jazz had the first 4 games of the season. The Jazz had the 4th overall offense in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
4th best offense.
David Locke told us about these numbers on DJ and PK. And since then, what's happened?
I missed the interview.
Since then, what's happened?
Last 7 games, which includes the Phoenix game, the Jazz are bottom 5.
Yeah.
The Jazz have gone from an offensive rating of 120.5 down to 108.3, 12 points per 100 possessions, which is massive.
That is a massive drop, and there's a couple reasons there. One that you pointed out, I think that you're about to point out, and one that Locke pointed out. Locke's point was, hey, there's a lot of young guys. Nobody knows anything about the Jazz. People aren't focused on the Jazz. Mm-hmm. But the Suns played the Jazz twice. And because they lost the first one to a team that they widely perceive as being horrific and way too young to win, they were super pissed and were determined to come back the second time. So not only do you have a better scouting report because now you played them, but the Ron Boone theory that nothing gets – he said the players – even when Booner played, right? Pre-computers, right? It was pre-analytics. Booner said, there's a report in your locker before every game, and it gives you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a paragraph or two, you've got what you need to know. And he said, but in the first 30 games, do guys pay attention to it? He says, tell me which teammate you're talking about, and I'll tell you how much attention they pay to it. A little, a lot, none at all, a ton, whatever, right? People are all over the spectrum. He said, if you get embarrassed by a guy and you get past 30 games, you play the team the second time, he says, now everybody but the knuckleheads pay attention, and the knuckleheads will be out of the league. Because nobody wants to get humiliated a second time. So the fact they saw Phoenix a second time, Locke thought that was a big deal. And once everybody sees how Phoenix did it, coaches who are preparing and know shortcuts, we all know shortcuts on our job. And the coaches are like, the Jazz have been lighting people up. Phoenix figured it out. What did Phoenix do?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they just cut right to it.
And it's not complex.
It was
going back to Will Hardy, stay between your man and the basket.
And the pressure that Kessler puts, hey, the lob, the dunks, the easy points he's going to get, those are going to be hard to replicate.
Ironically, the Jazz's defense, not ironically, but as opposed to the offense going from, what did I say, fourth best to fifth worst. Defensively, with Walker, the Jazz had the 20th ranked defense in the NBA, which is a significant climb from last year when they were 30th. In fact, the last two seasons they've been 30th in the NBA. They had climbed to 20th, so 9 teams were behind them, which is a good sign, or 10 teams technically behind them. Without Walker, they are at 23rd. So they actually have not dropped off dramatically. Their defensive rating went from 116 to 119. So it slipped, and 3 points over 100 possessions is a lot over the length of a season. But kind of interesting. He's had a much bigger impact on the Jazz's offense than he has defense.
Well, when you're getting beat in the straight line and he comes to help and they throw it for an open three and they make it, you've given up 3 points.
Correct.
Now that he's not there and they lay it in, it's 2 points.
Yeah, right.
So there are little things built in there. They should be worse defensively without him, and they are, but not as dramatically.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about Ace Bailey and maybe even Isaiah Collier, who I think has been really good the last couple of games as well. Stick around, more Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, David James. Again, this is new. We're going to be recording this every Thursday throughout the season, so make sure you stay tuned to Chandler and I on Mondays and David and I on Thursdays. We're not going to do a mailbag in the second half of the podcast, which is what we do on Mondays, but David and I are going to continue to break down what we've seen recently. And the big story over the last week is that Ace Bailey has broken out. Ace Bailey has returned to being the player we saw the first 2 games of the preseason and what Jazz fans hoped they were getting with the number 5 overall pick on a kid who was the number 2 overall recruit coming out of Rutgers and was probably paid $4.5 million or whatever he was in college to do exactly what he's doing right now for the Utah Jazz, which I think is a really good sign.
I'm not that well. I'm a little surprised he's in the starting lineup now because I thought they'd bring him along slowly. It's cautious. It's the way this franchise seems to roll. It seems to be baked into the DNA. Let's not force feed him. Let's not. I thought that he's looked pretty good, though. I mean, I'm trying to grade on a curve here and be super
diplomatic.
Yeah, there's no point in crushing 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds. We there's going to be a bunch of flaws, and we know that. So let's not go nuts over them, even though they're there and they're real and they need to be fixed. But let's not go nuts. So I guess that's the diplomacy in this. But I think that in general, he's looked good. I also think in general, there have been times where this team, for reasons I am not clear on, has been horrific. Let's not be diplomatic. Let's call it like it is. Horrific.
Yeah, they're down 20 in every single game.
Ridiculous.
They're going to be down 20
and
tonight against the Atlanta Hawks.
This is where Will says the truth but tries to be diplomatic. There's a stretch in a game where, we just lose control of the game. Like, there's a stretch in the game where we know what in the bed and it's freaking awful, and I throw up in my mouth watching it. We've addressed most, if not all, of these issues in shoot-around, in practice, in film. What the bleep is wrong with you clowns is what I think he'd like to say. It's what I'd like to say, so I just said it. Because, the starters get out there, and I think it was actually in Phoenix where for like 6 minutes, like it was back and forth.
Yeah,
and it's only 6 minutes in an NBA game, and it's back to my point about not all minutes are created equal. Everybody's easing into the game. They're not the most intense minutes, but nonetheless, you've gotten off on the right foot, get a hoop, get a stop, a little back and forth, break a sweat. Okay, we're in this. And I go to the bench, and bang, 18-4 run.
Yeah.
Bang, another night, 23-6 run. Bang, 12-zip run. That was just happening too often. And then in Minnesota Friday night, the starting lineup never showed up, not ready to play.
26-6 to open the game.
26-6 in 5.5 minutes of the quote-unquote easiest minutes. And it started in the first 8 seconds, which I think it actually started in the first 4 to 5 seconds. But I went back and checked the official box. There was a tip, and the Jazz won it. And that was the last bleeping thing they won for a long time.
Because they turned the ball over immediately?
Keone caught the ball, looked like he didn't know what to do with it. Should I pass it to someone else who's the point guard? Am I the point guard and I set it up? And while he's standing there holding the thing like an egg, somebody, I don't even remember who.
Yeah, McDaniels or somebody. Yeah.
Maybe comes by, rips it out of his hands, two dribbles, bam, dunk, crowd erupts.
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys doing? What? And that was like right out of the gate. And that, I think, just irritates coaches to no end. It irritated Jerry Sloan for years. It irritated Quinn for years. It irritates, I probably skipped over Ty. It irritated Ty Corbin.
Everything irritated Ty Corbin.
I mean, and now it's irritating Will Hardy. And you've given him 10 games, and the first quarters are a mess. We need a different starting group, maybe a different combination off the bench. If there's ever a time, Pablo Mastroeni at RSL says there's changes I want to make. You know what I don't do? I don't make them after wins.
Yeah.
Why? Because we won.
Yeah.
We reward the 11 guys who go out there and win, and you wait for a bad period to make changes. So make the change with Ace then. They're not staying in front of guys. They don't know what to do with the ball when they win the opening tip. They're giving up 20 to 4 runs on a regular basis. Mix it up. Give them a shot.
That was a big question for me, and I think you just answered some of why you think it happened.
Yeah.
Why did they put Ace in now as opposed to, I mean, they were awful before this. You know what I mean? Like, they were awful before the Minnesota game. Why did they wait? Now, I think there was a lot of reasons. They had already been forced to make changes to the starting lineup, right? Taylor Hendricks was there and replaced Kyle Filipowski, and then Filipowski was bad, so Taylor came in. Walker Kessler gets hurt, so now you have to play.
So you have these other changes going on, and there's also a thing that coaches have been conditioned over time, and certainly Will Hardy has in San Antonio and in Boston. Like, you can't make these big moves and overreact to 1 or 2 games.
Right.
It's 82 games. Champions have bad weeks. So give them a 10, 15, 20 game run and see what they do. Okay, well, you're at that point, you're 8, 9 games in, and you've had like 4 or 5 games in a row where you've had a horrible stretch in the first half. Like when they lost to Minnesota at home on Monday, I don't want to excuse losing, and you can get into losing mindset, it's why Austin Ainge does not want to dump games this year and why he said what he said at the press conference. I totally get this, right? But it was an acceptable loss. Danger, red flags all over the place, right?
It was.
But it was like you went back and forth. You led most of the first half. Now you've been through all the rotations, and at halftime, people feel a little more urgency. The coach is like, guys, crank it up. And the guys who are NBA veterans know, okay, we got to quit messing around. We can't let this team at home have hope in the fourth quarter. That's a stupid thing to do.
Right.
You're rolling the dice. We don't need to. And they came out and put a run on the Jazz to open the third quarter.
Yeah.
When the Jazz were great in 97 and 98, the pattern I saw, which I did not know until that point, was that they went back and forth with teams. Maybe they were down 4, maybe they were up 7. And it seemed like in every game, they annihilated people in the third quarter.
Yeah.
15-2 runs.
That's what the Warriors have notoriously done.
23-6 runs. Yeah. You've seen now, they've thrown every trick, every gimmicky, whatever special thing they've drawn up, however they've tweaked you've seen it. The bag of tricks is empty. And we're better than you, and now we are going to remind you exactly how much better than you we are.
Yeah.
And that's what Minnesota did to the Jazz, but the Jazz didn't quit. They could have lost that game by 30. They didn't quit. They battled. It was relatively close. I'm like, that's what it looks like when you don't have enough talent and you don't have enough experience. But you shouldn't get humiliated. And I thought Will's post-game comments pretty much captured that.
You can also worry about Deshaun Stevensoning Ace Bailey. By putting him out there in those first 8 games to start
100%.
And get his butt kicked, because one of the great segments that exists in all of basketball media is it's the Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes podcast. I can't remember what it's called now. And their big thing is who embarrassed you? And it's just veterans who played in the league for a long time talking about, well, John Stockton did this to me. And, Baron Davis did John Stockton. And I think Earl Watson did John Stockton. I think Damon Stoudemire did John Stockton. It's like, yeah, I thought I was good. And then I played against John Stockton once, and it was the worst day of my life.
Gary, I saw Earl Watson on that, and Gary Payton told Earl Watson. And Earl's like, I didn't believe it, and I got up into him, and he came down and Stockton threw the ball at his head.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And he's like, get the bleep off me.
So you've got to be careful if you're going to start Ace Bailey from day one, because he's going to get embarrassed, and is he going to be Deshaun Stevenson, or is he going to bounce back and be fine the next game? So you give him 8 games to not start, or 9 games to not start. You move him in over the last 2, and he plays much better.
there is a chance that he'll get humiliated like that. The
there's no risk.
There's no risk. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. The advantage of leaving him as a backup is you limit the number of minutes that he faces starters and you let him beat up on backups. But I think he's pretty good, and I don't think normal rules apply to him, and he will have to go through some of it. But, he's got advantages other people don't have. Deshaun Stevenson didn't have that extraordinary kind of size. It's kind of average in size.
Great athleticism, not great size.
And when you're looking for people who can stay in front of people, Ace's athletic ability, given his height and given his wingspan, this dude ought to be able to stay in front of people. And the cool thing is, I don't think they have to take him out of the starting lineup. And this is tricky because he's such a young player, but I don't think they have to take him out of the starting lineup based on who else needs to be in the starting lineup, because he can match up with multiple people and he's got multiple skill sets. So positionless basketball, we're talking about guys like Ace Bailey. There are guys who have a position. I don't think that's Ace, not in the long run.
I think he's a 3 offensively because he can't dribble. He truly cannot dribble. It's kind of shocking to watch, but
how about
he can guard whoever he wants to.
He can't dribble now as well as you'd like, but he will be able to.
You would certainly hope so. He's going to have to learn because it will really limit his upside. But he can guard 2s and 3s right now, which is great because that way you can get him on the floor with basically whoever else the Jazz have.
Dribbling, cones, 10,000 reps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
if he spends a summer zigging and zagging around cones with a coach yelling left, right, left, making him switch hands on whenever voice command, he'll get way better.
And that's going to be his thing. Yeah, you can learn to dribble. There are some things you can't learn to do. He will learn to dribble. Victor Wembanyama was dribbling all over the place early in his career, and now is much tighter. It's and he's 7'5" plus.
Yeah.
Ace is 6'8". He will learn to dribble. That's not a big deal. I'm just saying where his flaws are right now and what could limit him. But you're right. His ability to defend right now 2s and 3s, and eventually that will be 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s in the NBA is going to make him really versatile and easy to put players next to him regardless.
Maybe even 1s and 4s now, depending on the opponent, depending on whether it's a starter or a bench person. He might even be ready to do some of that, depending on who it is.
You know what is funny? One of the reasons I think actually why he got moved into the starting lineup, and this is just my guess, but I think a lot of people saw it. If you watch the fourth quarter against the Minnesota Timberwolves, they put him out there, and not the reverse dunk, not the fadeaway jump shot. It was the number of times he ran down the court as obviously the most important player on the roster, playing in garbage minutes and not touching the ball over and over and over, and trying to make good defensive plays, where generally you make a good defensive play, you reward that person by they get the ball on the other end. And he doesn't touch it. And he doesn't touch it. And he doesn't touch it. And when you go back and watch the film on Saturday and Sunday, because the Jazz don't play again until Monday, and Will's watching it, and Austin's watching it, and Danny's watching it, and Justin Zanuck's watching it, and Ryan Smith is watching it, and they say, what did we give up last season for? Was it for the 19-year-old super mega prospect not to touch the ball ever in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Or do we need to put him in a spot where he's going to get touches because it actually moves like a team and it's not everyone just trying to get theirs to prove they belong in the NBA next season?
But it's impressive if someone keeps hustling, keeps defending, even when they're not getting rewarded with touches and shots.
Sure.
That goes to the right attitude. Now, that attitude could be there because, A, that's just who he is, maybe. B, it could be there because he's a rookie thinking, coach has been mad. We're losing a lot. We're sucking. I'm not going to get yelled at in the film session like player A, B, C, D did in a previous film session. I don't think I fully appreciated that until Alec Burks. And they were asked Alec what his goal was. And they were talking like big picture. And he's like, not to be the guy in the film session the next day. That's my goal.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the guy in the film session when Coach Quinn goes off. You don't want to be the guy.
Yep.
So, but that gives you appreciation for paying attention to details, always bringing the effort so you're not that guy. And maybe that's what's motivating Ace. Maybe that's just who he is and how he plays. What you hope is that he turns into the guy everyone wants him to be and that he still has that when he's in his prime. Because at that point, and coaches always say this, man, the whole coach-guided, player-led. When the best player has the best work ethic, everybody's got to fall in line. You don't come in out of shape at Jazz camp because Stockton and Malone are going to be right on the number. Whatever the number is, they're on it.
Yep.
Steph Curry puts himself through a workout that apparently makes other All-Stars throw up.
Yeah.
If you're going into a Warrior camp, you're like, hey, if Steph's in prime shape, I can't come in 8 pounds overweight.
Yeah, what's my excuse?
Yeah, I don't have one.
So Ace has been great. It was a bit of a Hail Mary from Will Not a Hail Mary. That's the wrong term. It's a real strong commitment to put that guy out there as a rookie to start in game 9, knowing that you probably don't want to throw him in and pull him out and throw him in and pull him out because you can, it's a risk. You can break guys mentally.
When he hits that rough spot, if I were the Jazz, I think I'd come up with an injury. Instead of putting him on the bench when he's hitting that rough spot, to your point earlier, which I think is spot on, is at some point he's going to be thinking, man, we played a lot of games.
Yeah.
And I went to jump and I didn't. What just happened?
Yeah.
I went to move and I didn't. And at some point, just he's got hamstring or he's got a calf thing and give him 10 days off. It won't get him all the way back, but it'll help. It'll also clear his head. You can probably pick that time and say, let's do it on the road. We're playing good teams on the road. He might get humiliated. Let's not do that. And then it's not the, hey, we demoted him. It's not the, and you're right, you don't want him on a yo-yo. That's terrible. But I wouldn't blame him for that. And if they lost a few more games along the way this year, but it's not the true tank.
No, it's not. To make this type of risky move, somewhat risky move, and we all knew it was coming, but when they did it, for Ace to pay it off as well as he has, and over his last 3 games, again, only 2 of which he has started, but over his last 3 games now, he is averaging, see if I can pull this up, 14.5 points. I've got the wrong thing pulled up here. 14.5 points. I think it's 6 rebounds a game.
Yeah, but look at his minutes. They're up too. He had a lot of games where he was playing 13, 15 minutes, and now he's playing 24, 26, 28 minutes.
He's averaging 26 minutes a night over his last 3. He's averaging 14 points, 5.7 rebounds, 2 assists, which is a much bigger number than I expected from him, 1.3 steals, and then, of course, he's shooting 48% from the floor, 40% from 3, 90, or 1,000%.
So the 2 assists surprises you?
Yeah, I mean, the big knock on him, and I saw it at Rutgers too, I didn't see a lot of the stuff that people saw at Rutgers that they complained about. And the big one was he doesn't pass the ball. And I actually never fully believed that, but I never saw him making the types of, I'm going to generate an advantage with my passing. There are guys who just, I've been coached. I know I'm supposed to pass here. No, he's like catching the ball and being like, oh, Lowry is cutting and there's a mismatch. Like I can put this ball over the top with a lot of touch, like a quarterback on a good screen pass or someone across the middle that actually puts them in a spot with some space that I never saw him do at Rutgers.
Okay.
Now his teammates stunk. Truly stunk.
Truly awful. We had a Rutgers guy, a guy who covers Rutgers, on the show because we didn't know, and there's 2 of the top 3 prospects, and tell us about these 2 guys. And the big night is, well, why aren't they winning? Why aren't they winning? I mean, red flags on Ben Simmons. Go back. Why should you have known? Well, he didn't. LSU, SEC.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to get to the NCAA tournament from the SEC or
especially
from
because they were
LSU.
Cheating to get players. Yeah, they should be really good.
So shouldn't that have been a red flag? So is this a red flag at Rutgers? To which the beat guy said, they spent all their NIL on 2 guys, and the rest of that roster really isn't in the same league, doesn't belong on the same floor. So I get the lack of assists there. I think you come in as a rookie, and even your agent is telling you, make sure you pass the ball. Don't be that rookie.
Yeah.
And you get some assists in the NBA game by throwing the ball ahead on a break. You get some assists in the NBA game by, swing to the corner for the, depending on where you have me standing. So I didn't think 2 wasn't really turning my head. I mean, I also agree that, and I didn't expect him to have 5 because that's not who he is or why he is, and what he's doing.
I think it's the fact that he's looking for them.
Okay.
And not accidentally getting them.
And the occasional quality assist. He actually saw the floor. He saw something ahead of time, right?
All right. Quickly, Isaiah Collier. He's been back in the lineup since we last talked. 3 games. I thought he was terrible on Friday in Minnesota, despite the fact that his numbers were okay. And then I think
What was terrible?
4 turnovers. He was maybe the main culprit of why Ace Bailey wasn't touching the ball in the 4th quarter because I think he was looking to get his numbers now, to get his legs under him, which I actually do understand. You're trying to get back on the floor. The game's out of hand. I've got to get back into my rhythm, and this is going to be my opportunity to do it. I think he might be the Jazz's second best player over the last 2 games, including Ace Bailey. Lowry's one because Lowry's the best player on the floor every night he takes it. I actually thought against Minnesota in the 2nd game, he was totally in control. 7 assists, 5 points, 2 of 3 shots. He's not looking for anything that's not there. And then against Indiana, I thought he was incredible. 14 points, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, 5 of 6 from the floor, hit 1 of his 2 threes. I don't know what to make of Isaiah. So much of his game is going to come down to whether or not he hits threes. It's just the league. I wish it was something different than that. I wish the league had more nuance than that. It really doesn't. If you can't shoot threes, you can't be a point guard. If he can make them at 33%, 35%, it's probably good enough because of what else he does.
I think that the Jazz, The problem with these rebuilds is guys tend to get labeled as they suck or he's awesome. He's so good. He's going to be, calm down.
Yeah.
Would you just calm down?
Yep.
Like everybody isn't an all-star. Everybody isn't a dream teamer. In the last rebuild, there were good players. And in the rebuild before that, good players who had long careers, who beat the odds. I mean, they should be pumped. Given their physical gifts and what Alec Burks has carved out, he has stayed in the league a long time.
Right.
And he has stayed in the rotation on playoff-ish teams.
Yeah.
Some clearly playoff teams.
Right.
I mean, the Knicks. And some teams that were struggling and maybe they made it and maybe they didn't. And so that he stayed in that long, he's a good player. I mean, we're talking about the 450 that with injuries and two-way man roster, 500 best players in the world. And if you can stay in the top 150 to 200 of those and stay in a rotation and stay in the league, they found something that the front office found a player and the coaches developed a player. Now, the truth is also, how much impact does Alec Burks have on winning and losing?
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to turn a team around. Maybe he's the seventh or eighth piece and he makes your team better. But that's not what the Jazz. They need foundations. They need cornerstones.
Yeah.
And so, do I think Isaiah Collier is a cornerstone? I do not. Do I think Keontae is a cornerstone? I do not. Do I think we can go down the line?
No, I think
right?
it's a fair question.
But if you were CJ Miles and you play 16 years or whatever he played, the front office identified a good player, and the coaches developed, and the player got the most out of his talent. And that should be celebrated without, and I realize I'm asking the impossible, it should be celebrated without going crazy. I think Keontae can stay in the league a long time.
Yeah, of course.
I think Isaiah Collier can stay in the league a long time, right? I think Filipowski can stay in the league a long time. They have found good players. These guys are working hard to develop. Full credit to them and all that. But I could just calm down on a whole, here's the guy who's going to carry the torch.
Yes.
Easy does it.
It's easier to replace those guys because, of course, it's hard to replace top 10 guys or top 15 guys. And the further down the list you get, the easier they get to replace.
Right.
The more elite, the harder they are to replace. That's why they're elite. But somebody does have to be the eighth best player on your roster.
100%.
And that's not a bad
100%.
thing. And you know what? If you have team control and you build some familiarity with them and you've got some chemistry, there's nothing wrong with that.
And if any of the guys I mentioned are here 10 years and are in, they're paid the right number for their role.
Yeah.
And they realize it. That's not just on management. That's on them because they might leave chasing something more. Oh, yeah, you got more, but you went to a terrible team that was desperate and overpaid you. That's an old story in the NBA. So they have to figure all of that out. But Ace maybe can be that foundational piece, right? There's a whole debate about marketing. Well, how good are you if he's the second best player? How good are you if he's the third best player? If he's your fourth best player, somebody's polishing a trophy.
You're in great shape. Yeah.
You're in great shape, right? Yeah. So that's where I look at all these guys. I mean, Collier, his ability to pass the ball, his size, his physical presence. Can he be a backup point guard in this league for a long time? Yes. For how good a team and can you be a starter? Goes back to your point about, well, how well do you shoot it? Because if you can go under the screen, on every screen.
Kills everything you do.
It kills everything else. There's so much less space for everybody else to operate.
Jazz play the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Sunday, they are home against the Chicago Bulls.
If you're listening on Thursday, they play tonight.
Probably not. Yeah, that's not how podcasts work. Anyways, that's what the Jazz still have ahead of them. Chandler and I will be back with you on Monday. Dave and I will be back next Thursday. I said David. I didn't say Dave, but it sounded like I said Dave. But I said David, and I will be back.
Either way, I'll be here.
Thanks for tuning into the Jazz Notes podcast. Expect us 2 days a week now throughout the rest of the season. We'll be back with you on Monday.